we are going to learn how to write a really good paragraph. So the first thing that I want to show you is a paragraph sandwich. So when you're thinking about writing a strong paragraph, a lot of times it really just is like a formula and you just kind of follow a formula. Or I like to think of it as a metaphor, like a sandwich, a paragraph sandwich. So if you think about a sandwich, the top bun is like the topic sentence. The topic sentence should be general, not really a lot of details. It should just be the main idea of your paragraph, which means that every other sentence that comes after it should have something to do with this big idea that you put as your bun or the topic sentence. And then the next thing you put on your sentence is the cheese. The cheese is the context for the quote that you will use in your paragraph. So give your reader some kind of context that's going to set up the evidence and the other things that you mention in your paragraph. The lettuce that's underneath that is like the lead-in to your quote. So we're going to take a look at some examples of what a good lead-in would be. But you might say something like, as our author writes, and that's it. That's the lead-in to your quote, to kind of set up the quote. And then the tomato, which you can't see in here, but it's here. It's underneath the lettuce. The tomato is the quote that you use as evidence. So it could be from something that you read, from a book, from a novel, from a magazine article, some kind of evidence that you think is really helpful to prove your point. So that's the tomato. And then the meat, just like the meat is the most important part of a sandwich, the meat is the most important part of your paragraph. It should take up the most space on the page. The meat is your explanation. So it could look like examples and further details that help explain how the quote supports your topic sentence. And then the bottom, the bun, is your concluding sentence. It's a sentence that wraps your paragraph together, doesn't introduce any new ideas, and just like the top bun and the bottom bun are both bread, the topic sentence and the concluding sentence kind of state the same main point of your paragraph. So let's take a look at an example. Here's a paragraph. So the major problem with cell phones is that the driver is not focused on the road, but on his or her cell phone conversation. The New England Journal of Medicine reported that motorists using a cell phone were 4 times more likely to have an accident than those not using a phone. And then we have our in-text citation. Cell phone drivers are very unpredictable. They weave, tailgate, drive too fast or too slow, make improper turns, run red lights, and even stop at green ones. It's not only annoying, it's hazardous. Cell phone-related accidents include rear-ending vehicles, running off a road and crashing into trees, fences, and buildings, flipping over, and having head-on collisions. Many of these accidents result in fatalities. These are the same problems that occur with drunk driving, which is strictly outlawed and harshly enforced. For this reason, the use of cell phones in cars is a dangerous distraction. So it's color-coded, and let's look at these in more detail. So this is the topic sentence. It's the first sentence of the paragraph, and then you can see it's pretty broad, and every other sentence in the paragraph is related to cell phones being distracting while driving. This is the lead-in phrase to the quote. So the New England Journal of Medicine reported that. That's a lead-in phrase. And then you have the quote from an article by Jones. So you'll notice the inclusion of the quotation marks and the in-text citation. So a lead-in phrase introduces the article a quotation is from, the person who said the quotation, or both. So here are a couple of lead-in phrases. You could say, according to this article, or Jones claims, Wiesel points out, our author discusses, this person proposes, notes, states, writes, demonstrates, argues, explains, or says. You can use any of those as good lead-in phrases. For a literary analysis paragraph, you can also include like context. So what's happening in the story when the quote is stated. So something like, while Eli and his father spent their first night at Auschwitz, that's the context. Eli thinks, that's the lead-in phrase. And then I felt that I was only a body and nothing more is the quote. And then Wiesel 45 is our in-text citation. So this, if we go back to our original paragraph, this is the explanation. It's the most important or the meaty part of the paragraph. These sentences provide an explanation for how the quote supports the topic sentence. It expands on the topic sentence. It provides details, explanations, examples. And you'll notice it's the longest part of the paragraph. And then we have our concluding statement. It sort of restates the broad idea that cell phones are distracting. Now you know the formula to follow to write a strong paragraph.